welcome to the Women's Rugby Pod.
Nearing the end of the Six Nations with the lady herself, Rachael Burford. I'm Johnnie Hammond. Welcome, everyone. Another great show ahead of us. We've got reviews and previews, Burf, of round 4, round 5 of the Six Nations. There's quite a bit of news to get through as well. It's just wave after wave of women's rugby at the moment. It's brilliant, isn't it? All in the sunshine. We've got Emily Scarratt, the lady of the moment, coming on the pod as well to talk about her 100th cap. And also
NBA.
NBA, indeed.
Oh,
dear.
good job you're a good editor, so you can edit that out.
Honestly, she probably won't come on now. We haven't mentioned the NBA.
Yeah. Consent, respect.
We're also going to get the number of her scriptwriter because we all want that person. And we're going to have a little look at the situation down in New Zealand as well. There's been a few movements down in there, as I say, news from the world of sevens, Langford this weekend, a bit of English League news to bring you up with, and Cup news as well. But let's get into it then, Burf. First of all, I mean, we're all on tenterhooks. Is the flooring done?
Not done, but it's well on its way. I mean, we've got the main area and they're doing the kitchen today. So I have no access to a kitchen for a couple of days, and I haven't had access to the washing machine since last week. So we've got like 3 baskets of washing. I mean, yeah, I could go on and on if you want, Johnny. But no, we're on our way. It looks great and it won't take too much longer. Although the Tylers are going fishing on Friday for a week. So we lose them for a week because they're going on holiday. So you have to wait another week till they get back.
Right, yeah, I mean, for the sake of me and the viewers, no need to go on at all. That is more than enough. This is how round 5 lines up for you, ladies and gentlemen, in the 2022 Six Nations. On Saturday, we have Wales against Italy at 12 o'clock noon. These are all local times. France against England at 2:15. And then in the evening, over in Ireland, they host Scotland. Looking back for the first part of the show, as we said, round 4, the results on Friday evening. Wales went down 33 points to 5 to France. Italy got their first win of the campaign over Scotland. And England, after being only 10-0 up at half-time over Ireland, put on 69 points in the end, in front of just 160 shy of 16,000 people. We'll get into that in 1 second. Predictions from last week, Rachael Burford. You predicted England by 66. Very good. I said 62. Rachael Burford said Scotland by 9. JH said Italy by 2. Rachael Burford said France by 14. JH said France by 12. So we're all right at this thing. People might
not too bad.
We actually think we kind of know what we're talking about. Anyway, far more importantly, 16,000 at Welford Road. Great ground. It looked fabulous.
It genuinely was. Like I was stood there talking. I was there at 9 a.m. And there wasn't many people there at 9 a.m. But all the people, all fans, young, old, families, whatever, were there before the players were even warming up. Like they want to be there to watch the players, help build the atmosphere, really make a day and an event of it. And it just had this real kind of bubble around it of we're building something here, and it just got greater and greater and greater. And then come the kickoff, it just felt unbelievable. It felt like I had a look around. Actually, I was doing radio comms for 5 Live, and I took my headphones on just before the anthems because I wanted to hear it and feel it and see it. And I've never felt like that in England. I've experienced that in other countries, like when we played against New Zealand, not the anthem, but just the atmosphere. We played just before the British and Irish Lions. So that atmosphere, when I played in that France game that currently holds the record, when I've even played in a final in Dubai Sevens, for example, but I've never ever had that experience in the UK, and it was unbelievable. And it just made me flash towards 2025 and thinking about what this country could achieve in terms of fans and engagement and crowds for the Rugby World Cup. I just got so excited and so, felt really proud of where our game's gone in what feels like such a short space of time. It kind of feels like, we had COVID, and then we obviously had no fans, no nothing. Then we had the autumn building nicely, bigger crowds. And then all of a sudden, bang, we've got fans following the Red Roses around. 2 weeks ago, we set a record. And then another 2 weeks later, we've set another record. And I just think I'm just blown away about where it is at the moment. And the fact that the players get that opportunity to play in front of so many people. And the fans genuinely love the players. And that's all down to them, sticking around after, signing autographs, having, little small conversations, giving away socks, giving away a shirt, those kind of things that create memories for young people and older people to want to come back and be a part of the whole journey.
Oh, quite emotional after that. And that was proper from the heart. What an answer, what an occasion. I think female rugby fans, and I don't mean females, but women's rugby fans, are invested. And I'm not saying that men's rugby fans aren't invested, but and I think that comes from one of your points that you made there. And it started by England, but you're very much there for all to see with the England players. But they spend all that time post-game to go round, and hours and hours and hours afterwards. And quite a few people in my line of work in the media, mainly men, and you're working on the men's game, and then they cross over to the women's, and they're blown away by that, and you can't quite believe it. I mean, we've noticed, been there for many years, and as I say, it's not exclusive England at all. Of course it isn't. But you feel a small part of it, and therefore, you buy in fully. And I agree with you. Since lockdown, it's just poof. But we mustn't forget, and indeed on Saturday they didn't, did they? Really, really special section of the crowd. Feels like it has kind of exploded post-COVID, absolutely. But again, just mustn't forget, that first record crowd, that first league game on television, that first international on television, whatever it was, that first game at Twickenham, all those kind of things have built up to kind of where we are now. But the game is in a brilliant, brilliant space. And this weekend will hopefully be the cherry on top. But talk to us about those 400 women, Burf, who played, hadn't they, for England or at regional level. They all had caps on, which I think Jill Burns, MBE, had a hand in doing, didn't she? Of course. What a totem pole of a lady she is, not physically, but in lots of different ways. But truly touching scenes, and so right to be recognised. So, bravo to the RFU and everyone else involved in doing that. That was really special.
Yeah, it really was. And I obviously knew that they were all in the crowd, and we saw them on the big screen a few times. And I'll come back to the actual story about them in a moment. But I was actually walking across from one side of the pitch to the other, and I saw a couple of them and like, oh, come over. And honestly, I just stood there in front of all of them as they were getting in front of the post to have a photo. And I was like, oh my God, just pointing at different people that I'd either played with or watched played, or, even because it was all different representative levels. And it was just so incredible. And, straight away, banter started flying around. One of the players, I was like, oh, what's going on now? She's like, oh, I'm not sure. Burnsy still bossing everybody around like she was as a captain, that's where to go. Everybody, we're all making out she knows that she's in charge, but that's what she thinks, isn't it? Like that type of thing. It was just so amazing. And Giselle Maver had her 1994. So on the day of the game, on the 24th of April in 1994, England women won the World Cup, and Giselle Maver has the original shirt. Wow. She was wearing it that night, and it was like Swiss Life, had the World Cup on it and the number 12 on the back, and it was just incredible. And I was like just in awe and felt incredibly lucky that I was part of that for a very split second. But so the 400 of them, so obviously the players from 1994 World Cup.
It was the World Cup, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of had a reunion as well. But then quite a few months ago now, Burnsy put a message out saying, want to create caps for anybody who didn't get the recognitions or receive them. And you don't, back then, you didn't receive them in county level or maybe university, etc. So she went out of her way to kind of source someone in order to have them made. So if you played it for, let's say for Kent, I could have said, can you get a Kent cap made up for me? And by that time, she obviously had over 400, and there were people that couldn't make the day that also asked for a cap as well. So you had all these different levels from county to regional level, all the way up to international. The Lionesses that toured, I don't know what year they toured, and it was just incredible. And, I was just in like complete awe, and it was really like, we talk always about, oh, they're a legend of the game, they're this, they're that, but Jill Burns genuinely is the queen of our game. She continues to do special things like that. And I got a text from one of the Quins girls saying, oh my God, she was in the bar last night, she got the guitar out and she was singing and she did the worm. I mean, oh my God, she's unbelievable. And like, she obviously touched a lot of people's heart playing, but now she still does that, when she's long time retired. And it's just, it was such a special occasion. And it just reminded me that we have to do more of that, like have to recognize our past and understand where we've got to and why and who set that for us.
Yeah, and because it just gotten absolutely no recognition at all. I mean, Jill made the point, and it was very Jill made the point in her halftime interview, didn't she? That the women's union was separate from the RFU, weren't even allowed in the RFU, and she made that point when back when she was playing. So these things have to be recognised and continue to do that kind of thing. It's very, very important. But no, very, very special, and bravo to all who made that happen. It was also bravo to Emily Scarratt, Leanne Riley, 50 caps. Brilliant for her. Obviously, you know her very well from her Harlequins days. But let's get into Emily Scarratt. Just talk to us, her as a player, her as a person.
Yeah, well, I think her playing ability speaks for itself every single time. Every time, how many players, play for their country that amount of times, but are world-class that amount of times, like are the best player on the pitch that amount of times. She is literally one of a kind, one in a generation type of player. And she's just got this kind of aura around her that makes you feel, even if you're not in control, we will be, or we can get back in control, or, she takes that weight so elegantly and nothing seems to faze her, and I just think that it shows unbelievable character of who she is and how she goes about her business. To have the injury that she had, which was horrendous, basically my little finger, but on your leg, like I should not even be whinging one little bit about my finger compared to her, what she did to her leg. But yet when she came back, she was world class straight away. There was no, she's going to need a couple of games to find herself in. Bang, straight away made an impact for Loughborough. Bang, straight away made an impact in England training. And so that's her as a rugby player. But like as a person, she's just so incredibly humble. She'll do anything for anybody. She'll support any player around her. And, she doesn't need to. She's the type of player that will just speak up when she feels it's needed. She'll allow others to do what they need to do. And if she feels that something needs to be simplified or brought back to focus, then she will. But she's all about doing. She's all about being out there, being the best that she can be. And for me, she's always, she's so competitive. She won't give that off, but she is ultra competitive about every little thing that she does. But she's so good at playing poker that you don't know that she's not bothered. I mean, just watching her and Mo sometimes when they play pool or they play darts, like Mo wears it all over her face, gets angry if Scaz goes up by a point or whatever. But like Scaz is just calm all the way through, and even when she wins, she just has that like little look in her eye. It's like, of course I won. Of course I won. Quietly, very, very confident. But yeah, she's just a wonderful person.
Yeah, you're right. To be presented your 100 cap by your dad, whose farm is 10-15 miles down the road at Welford Road. She started a club rugby just down the road at Leicester Forest East, I think. Really, really nice. And I've never seen a guard of honour from players before. I just certainly knew to me that the players obviously wanted to do that and made a guard of honour in one of the worst grounds to run out to in the world. But normally 50 cap or 100 cap will go out by themselves, and then the players will follow. But to make that guard of honour just exceptional. And just to back up what you're saying from my point of view, I got into do some commentary at Sky, her first ever commentary. She did it alongside myself and Sue Day. She was just exceptional. Absolutely.
It's annoying, isn't it? She's good at everything.
Absolutely everything.
Oh, actually, breaking news. I know what Emily Scarratt is not good at.
Come on.
It's two things: press ups and pull ups.
Yeah, I was hoping there's something a bit more. Like she's a terrible driver. She can't sit. She would say her singing voice is not very good, but I suspect it's probably good, isn't it? But yeah, just as you say, an absolute classy player. And it's often said, isn't it? But she looks like she has an absolute edge every time she gets the ball, whenever she gets the ball, however much space she's got, whoever's around her, whatever situation it is. And there was a time a couple of years ago that she was literally winning games single-handedly. And in the ultimate team sport, that is absolutely incredible. And the influence she has, she's got a yellow dressing gown. I think a photo shoot's coming her way. So to the men's game. Anyway, now we've blown smoke fully in her way. Let's get into our review of last weekend's games. Let's start with that England-Ireland game, and let's just speak to her. Let's just speak to the lady herself, Dame. Let's just preempt that, shall we? Let's just preempt Dame Emily Scarratt, MB. Here she is on the Women's Rugby Pod. It is a huge WRP welcome to. We've already given you a Dame. So we've crossed off the MBE, Scaz, and we just go straight to Dame now. So Dame Emily Scarratt, MBE, is on the WRP again, friend of the pod. I think we can say that. How are you? The black eyes looking wonderful. Aside from that, how are you?
Yes, all good, thank you. Yeah, every morning I wake up and I'm a little, when you wake up and you feel a bit puffy sometimes if you're a bit tired. I've got that feeling every morning at the moment, but yeah, no, it's all good.
Well, look, you're over in France, Biarritz, wonderful little spot down in Biarritz, isn't it? Café Lef, if you get a chance, is a wonderful little spot that I half remember. But we'll move on. But to get some steak on there, isn't it a steak that reduces swelling? Yeah.
Well, I've not heard of that one.
I've saw it in some sort of boxing film, or perhaps it was
like
just
an old wives' tale. You're trying to stitch me up with.
Yeah, an old husband's tale. There you are. Emily, it was sort of fairly obvious why I wanted to get you on the pod. Huge congratulations on your 100th cap. I'll do all the corny lines now. We'll get them over and done with. At the very end, do just need your scriptwriter's number. Same guy, Dan Carter, I presume, as well. But only the very best have your scriptwriter. But no, genuinely, and trying to draw as much emotion out of you as possible. When you started 10-15 miles down the road from Welford Road, did you, in your wildest dreams, did you think that one day I'm going to get 100 caps, a beautiful gold cap, presented to my dad at Welford Road, having played this wonderful sport in not only Olympics but in World Cups and scoring winning tries and all the rest of it? Did you, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think this is where you'd be?
No, never. I think I've said it before, but I never dreamed any further than where I was at the time. Do you know what I mean? And I've done that my entire career. So like when I was 5, I just wanted to play and I wanted to go back next Sunday. When I was 16 and I was playing county and regional, I just wanted to go back next Sunday. And it just kind of carried on like that. Like I genuinely never really looked too far ahead. And I don't know, you might say that's not a good thing because of all the goal setting chat and things that you probably should do when you're more of an elite athlete. But I genuinely never dreamt of having one cap, let alone being here. I always wanted to play at Welford Road. That was something that I always wanted to do. But yeah, I never in a million years imagined it would be like it was on Sunday.
So if playing at Welford Road is on the bucket list, I'm guessing it's probably on a small posted note, your bucket list. Anything else on the rugby bucket list?
Obviously, I think at the moment, obviously winning another World Cup. I think obviously having won one, then the following year lost one. I suppose you can say that's the reason I'm still playing the game, as well as obviously loving playing the game. But yeah, that's definitely one that is right up there. But no, I just genuinely just enjoying it. Still want to get better. All of that sort of, like you say, corny stuff, cliche stuff, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I'm obviously a bit older now, but I still just love playing the game, and I want to do as much as I can.
How was it then? I personally was just spoken to Burf, who's had to whiz off, so apologies, she's not on the call. She's blown a lot of smoke in your direction, as we both have. She might have to listen to the WRP this week, young Scaz. I've never seen players do a tunnel, a guard of honour. They're normally 50 cappers, 100 cappers, run out before everyone else. But a guard of honour, I suspect I know who's behind it, the rib tickler herself. How special was that? Because I saw you back in the tunnel. It's not a great place to run out, isn't it, with those tiny little steps at Welford Road? But
Yeah.
did you know that was happening? Did you stop and look and go, have a big swallow? Was there any moment you had a big swallow as you're running out?
Yeah, I had a few. I think the one I had, which I probably wasn't expecting, was when we arrived at the ground on the bus. Obviously, like, everyone's in their own headphones on, music, whatever. At that point, obviously, there's no chat going on, there's nothing. But I kind of just rocking in at that point. I was a bit like, "Ooh, here we go," type vibe. And then yeah, because obviously the Santa obviously had probably orchestrated that a lot, but had spoken about who was going out first. Obviously, Leanne and I would lead the side out. So kind of once we'd done our chat in the changing room, we kind of started to go towards the door, and then Santa was like, no. And then everyone else piled out. So I was a bit like, sort of smelt a rat at that point. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just crazy special. Like, it's probably the mark of someone like Sarah Hunter, isn't it, to try and make occasions like that as special as possible, which it certainly was. Coming down those steps, obviously through the girls at the time, and then I guess just to hear the noise of the stadium, which, yeah, you can't prepare yourself for stuff like that. You kind of get out to the middle all by yourself and you don't really know what to do. So I kind of gave this limp sort of wave, but yeah, it was awesome.
What did you say to Leanne? Because you both laughed heartily. It was a proper good laugh. Do you remember?
Oh, I think I said something like, well, this is cool, or something like that, or probably swore and said, well, this is SH1T.
Right.
And then I also said to her, I was like, well, you stay there, otherwise you're going to look really short, because otherwise she would have been like, it would have been me, Leanne, Santa. So I put her on the end, yeah.
Oh, bless you. And you, I mean, it's so typically you that you're bigging up Sarah Hunter when we're trying to talk about you. That's you all over. Look, I think it's probably not the best time to reflect on it. In a few years' time, hopefully many years' time, once you finish playing, it'll be get the VHS, get the footage out and rewatch it. But let's just get into so. After the game, mum and dad are there, family are there, filling most of the stand.
Yeah, there's a lot. It had a lot of family there. So my brother and sister-in-law were there. Few aunties, cousins, second cousins, some old school friends. The club that I first started playing at were there. Some of my brother's friends were there. It's just, yeah, there was a whole host of people. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see a lot of them, which was a bit of a shame, because I had quite a lot of media bits to do, because I had an HIA. I had to go and do my HIA too. So there's a couple of things that meant that I probably wasn't able to see as many people as I would have liked to. But yeah, obviously the cap presentation on field was pretty special, because it was then in front of a lot of those people.
And you're a tight family as well. That must have been a very, very special moment with your mum and dad and bro there, yeah, and what have you.
Yeah, when I saw them coming onto the field, I was like, who's giving you two permission to get on here? But yeah, then when I saw Dad with the calf, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Bless him. He's the soft one of the family, so I could see his little eyes all watery, which was super cute. Because like it's for all of us, isn't it? Like we've all been on this journey. Like they were right there at the start. They've driven me everywhere when I was a youngster and before I could drive. Even when I could drive, they'd still drive me. Do you know what I mean? They're such an integral part of it all. So it was so nice to have them there.
Awesome. Well, look, I'm going to give you 10 seconds of a little tribute, and then we'll actually talk about some rugby. Just one or two questions, because I know you want to get to your entrecote, not to put it in your face, but probably eat it. People ask me the best rugby player I've ever seen on the planet, and I've been doing this a while, and my answer is you. For my two kids who are 13 and 10 boys, their favourite player on the planet is Emily Scarratt. So there's a little tribute from the Hammond household, and thank you for all you do and continue to do for the women's game. It's been a pleasure to enjoy some of that journey alongside you, and 2014 lives long in the memory. Scarratt, she's going to go through. Well done, you. Awesome. Enough of that. Enough of the smoke blowing, because I know you don't like it, and it's all slightly awkward anyway. What about England then? What was said at half time? I'd love to have known.
Do you know what? It was all very measured and pretty focused. Like I thought, walking in, I was like, "Oh, we could get it here," because obviously the first half wasn't perhaps what we'd want to put out there. But it was all pretty measured. A lot of the things we were trying to do first half were the right things. It wasn't like we were crazy off script or anything like that. It was just the execution bits, which, you don't necessarily always need a roasting for. So, it was pretty measured. And I think everybody left the changing room very clear what we wanted to achieve in that second half. And, that definitely showed. So I think early doors, we got straight back on the scoreboard.
Yeah, you certainly did within minutes. How much more is to come from this team then, Scaz?
Yeah, so much. And I think that's the exciting and scary thing, isn't it? I think, it's our job to try and unlock that and really get that out as much as possible. But yeah, I think a 10-point second half and a 10-point first half, and a 59-point second half probably just shows the difference in the two. And you have to give huge credit to Ireland as well. Like that first half, they came out and, they had a clear plan as well, and fair play to them. Absolutely. It's exciting to see perhaps where they'll get to on their journey as well. But yeah, I think, there's so much more kind of room for us to grow into, things that we can tidy up on, things that we can continue to develop, and also with the range of players that we have as well, which is, it's exciting. Awesome.
Last one, Le Crunch. How much fun is it being in France and playing over there? And what do you have to get right from what you've seen of France in the opening 4 rounds to get a back-to-back Grand Slam?
Yeah, first of all, I love being out in France. It's one of my favourite countries. The bread, if nothing else, is sensational.
Yep.
Breakfast this morning was top draw. But yeah, obviously, like they always, it's so well supported out here, so that's always exciting. And then I think, like, obviously the physical and the territorial battle will probably be 2 massive things. We've got a strong kicking game. They have a very strong kicking game as well. So potentially who can marshal that field and be in the right areas of the field often enough could be a really telling point in the game. But also just the physical battle, like the girls up front both sides are going to go through some serious work this weekend in terms of trying to get on the front foot, trying to put their sides in a positive place. So yeah, it's all dibbed to be a fantastic game, isn't it? And I just hope that we can live up to the billing.
Yeah. Oh no, it's fascinating stuff. And for me, England, it's win-win, because you win, you've still got that wood on France, because I think that'd be 10 in a row. If you don't, it's a little bit of a buck up before the World Cup for France. It's almost must win for them. But look, we will let you go. I know you've done loads and loads of media, and coming on another podcast is hugely appreciated, Scaz, and thank you very much for that. Enjoy France, and thank you for the memories so far, and keep making them.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it.
I'm Jill Burns, and you're listening to the wonderful Women's Rugby Pod.
Enough Scaz chat. Let's get into the game itself then, Burf. I was on another show this week, and I said the team I'm most disappointed with this Six Nations so far is England. Mo Hunt wasn't very happy with me. I think when somebody says, "Yeah, I appreciate the honesty," I think that means that they're not overly happy with you. But I am. There's huge expectations for England. Yeah, they're winning 69-0, but still 10-0 at half time. Huge credit to Ireland. Tex Greg McWilliams, who was on the show last week, said superb. He should be very, very proud of his charges. But still just not clicking as I suspect they would want to.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think we probably expect England to be this kind of crisp final product. And I think we have given the excuse that changes and movement within the selected team is part of that. However, basic skills, catch, pass, looking after the ball in contact, those things need to be at a level that, they're a professional side. They should be executing that. And the amount of possession that they had in that first half, their set piece wasn't functioning, which you would expect, having Zoe Allcroft back in the mix, it would take it to an even higher level than it can be. But yeah, I think we kind of have this huge expectation on those players because they are professional, because they are incredible individual talented players, but we haven't seen that kind of gel. We've seen lots of moments, but it's taking time within the games. They haven't started well in each game this year. But I have full faith that they're going to absolutely smash it out of the park this week. I can just see it, completely turn it around.
But it's behind the scrum for me. It's a question I've asked some Middleton for the last 8 months in the various things we've done. When do you stop going, right, well, who am I actually going to pick? And it is difficult because you don't know if it's going to be 30-player squad or 36-player squad, and therefore that's really difficult. Do you want someone who can play 10, 12, 13, 15 potentially? Do you want somebody who's only can play one position? That's difficult, but to get those partnerships, you and Scaz for years nailed on 12, 13, bosh. You understood each other, knew what each other were doing in your sleep, all the rest of it. We don't have a settled 12, and that has to account for some of it, I think. But I still think they should be better.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, there's certain players that you can move around to facilitate, getting them on the pitch, like a Helena Roland. She can move between 10 and 15.
What did you make of her at 15?
I think it suits her better in that free open space where she can attack where she wants to. She wants to be on the ball. She wants to take defenders on. She's got a good eye for a kick space. And obviously, she's a great kicker if for territory or under pressure in the backfield, she can deliver that. I think that's where it suits her better, being in the open free spaces where she can run with the ball a bit more and have a bit more space. I think when she plays at 12, she probably looks to do that first before looking at what the space around her is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I thought it was a nice option to have her there. She's got the pace, she's got great step to beat defenders. And she's got the handling ability and the belief in her handling ability to move the ball to the edges as and when, like that try for Lydia. But then I think other players, I just don't like when, for instance, look at Wales when, I know Poppy Cleall's a very good player, moved into the second row, but we didn't get the best out of her, didn't see her. In comparison to where when she's playing in the back row, you get her ball carrying, you get her dominating tackles, dominating the gain line. Don't get that when you play her slightly out of position. She totally gets it, knows what she needs to do for the team. But so I think there's some players where you can have that kind of variation of where they move and sit into the team. But there's some players, to get the best out of them for that team, they've got to play in their right position. And I feel like same for Holly Aitchison. She's played 10, 12, 13. She's played 10, 12, 13 at club. And they are different. All three of them have different pressures, different time, different running lines. All those things are very different. And unless you're consistently always getting opportunity there, that's very hard to then kind of just, you look at like Scaz and Zoe, pretty pivotal, know their role, deliver really well. And then, we've had Amber, Holly, Helena. We've had 3 different 12s. in 4 games.
Yeah, agreed. A word on Ireland, then, Burf.
Oh, I think they put everything out there. They genuinely do. I think the first half was unbelievable. They really pressured England. They were under so much pressure. The amount of entries that England had into the Irish 22, and they managed to turn them over, and they exited so poorly. They were then back under pressure. So it was like this constant pressure that they just kept being able to absorb, inch their way up a little bit further from their try line. That desperate tackle from, I can't remember the winger's name now, but on Lydia Thompson. I mean, Lydia Thompson does not get stopped when she sees a bit of an outside. Yeah. And for them to like last ditch cover tackle, they had the real, we are where we are, but let's make sure if we're going down today, we're going with a fight. And that just oozed out of them. It really did. Having a yellow card and a red card doesn't help. The levels of fitness, England are always going to trump that. So come the last 20, 30 minutes, England are going to end up running riot, especially with the powerhouses that they had on the bench, Mo Hunt, Poppy Cleal, and as you said, that entire front row that came on and just ran over the top of them. I think they showed so much heart and commitment. They put together some really nice stuff. But we mentioned it. We said about not being able to exit. I think they were in the first opportunity. And again, but then you also look at the first opportunity that Ireland got. They got a penalty, kick to the corner, kept recycling the phases, and then they get a penalty right in front of the post. If she'd got that would be, their first entry into 22 would come away with some points. And that would just give them that little bit. And yeah, you can't knock their effort. You cannot knock their effort. Their defence was immense at times. Yep. The reload, they wanted to play for their country with the most amount of pride that they could and to do their jersey the best justice they could. But, you can't do that when you lose your entire back line to sevens. And some of those players just coming in for that first week, they hadn't been part of the squad for the previous campaigns, not even in training. And, so they had maybe 3 or 4 sessions to get up to speed, work on those combinations, collectively know what was going on. And you saw, a number of lines overrun or drop balls, and that came down to consistency of playing together and even being in the squad. So I don't think you can ask much for them. I think that first half was unreal, to 10-0. I don't know the stat, but is that potentially the lowest score that England have got in at halftime of the campaign so far?
I think it probably is the Six Nations, but Alfred Dawes, the winger, Constantine was on the other wing for Ireland. There's lots of things we could get into, and the sevens. We didn't touch on it last week because it's very, very simple. They are employed by the RFU to play sevens. There is a sevens tournament and a World Cup this year, therefore they have to go off and play sevens. It's not a point for debate. It's as simple as that. They're employed to play sevens. Mm-hmm. So, debate over, right or wrong, and whether there should be 15 contacts. We all know that, and there's talk of them being sort of rolled out by the end of this year. This talk, but just going back to Greg McWilliams last week, saying all he wanted was effort, and I think it's exactly what he got. And unbelievable changes. You say in that back line, and then the goal Cronin misses that penalty. You're saying she goes off, and then there's another injury, and then Sene gets a red card. Just got to lower your tackle height. I don't think there's any arguments there on the red card. So much disruption, and yet fought right to the very end. And it was amateurs versus professionals in that second half, wasn't it? As simple as that. Love to know what was said by Simon Middleton at half time, because England were a very different side indeed. We must move on, Burf. Let's look back at Friday night then at the Arms Park. Wales against France.
Yeah.
It's a poor game, wasn't it?
Just so many errors. Stop start. Yeah, I wasn't that impressed by France, really, if I'm honest. I saw somebody. I saw, but I think from my point of view, I expected France to be a lot better, and we should. And it just, the amount of unforced errors, it made me think, well, England probably got this in the bag at the weekend. Yeah, I was disappointed.
Yeah, I thought it was a distinct lack of empathy from the referee. Quite new to it. Looked like a bit of a rabbit in the headlights at times. I know she had some experience on the sidelines, but and they made for a bitty game for me. No flow to it, and added to that, as you say, the errors from both sides. Just Wales, just for me, couldn't seem to get out of fourth and into those high gears. And no, there's huge amount of passion and determination. It's written, the captain is the very embodiment of that, and playing at home as well. But just didn't seem to get going as they had done in previous games. And France, where we've always said for French teams, it's so frustrating because they've got so much talent, and yet we don't often see it. And that can often be said for the men's team. Not anymore with Dupont and Ntamack and all the rest of it. But now, for the women's team, that is exactly the case. We'll just score 4 tries as and when, and then we'll sort of just eke the rest of the game out. I thought Sochar was good, and if they hadn't had Sansus for the 4 rounds in this Six Nations, I think the results could have been quite different, because she is.
Agreed.
God knows what they're feeding their scrum halves in France at the moment.
I know. Yeah, she's such an exciting player to watch. But like you said, like a bit like how we've spoken about how Emily Scarratt has won a game with a line break score, or she's done that. She's had how many individual brilliance of tries, being able to, whether it's a chip and chase or a little show and go, and she has the ability to finish them off. And she's done that. She did that last season as well for France. But yeah, I do wonder where France would be without her. And also, she wasn't even the starting 9 before Baudon got injured. So, for her to then kind of show exactly the talent that she can be. Who I was impressed with again was Tremelier at 10. I think she's done a good job there. She kicked really well. She moves the ball well. Scored that great try, which, I mean, should never have been scored. It was really poor defence. But she seems like a real mature version, like even more so. And she's just so nonchalant. And it's like, it seems to nothing phases her. She's very like a chilled individual.
The final game of round 4, of course, was Italy against Scotland. Scotland have never beaten Italy in Italy. I mean, I didn't tell you that last week before you did your prediction, of course, because you keep these things to yourself when you're doing predictions. And Italy are, 2-3 places higher than them on the world rankings? But I just thought there was always another gear for Italy to click into. Sillery was outstanding and quite rightly player of the match. Your former Harlequins teammate. But I just thought, we spoke about Angetti, didn't we, coming back last week. I thought she had a really big game, influential, carrying the ball really, really hard. And it was kind of even Stevens until the rain came down, which seems to sort of play into Italy's hands somewhat in that second half. But I always just felt Italy had a little bit, something extra to call upon should they need to win the game. And that proved to be the case in the end. What do you make of it?
I think of Scotland, losing Jay Conkle is massive. I think people don't really fully understand the impact that she can have within a side. Considering she's the most takes the most carries out of any player in world rugby at the moment, not just in Scotland. That's huge. And she always makes gain line and gets the team on the front foot. And then not to have her in the team is massive, just from a leadership point of view, from the rugby element I just said as well. But the same thing, we've spoken about this for every game for Scotland. They create the opportunities. They had 14 line breaks, but they're not finishing them. Yep. And that's the difference. Italy had less line breaks against them, but finished the crucial ones. And so for me, it's that final detail that Scotland need to go away, and that's where they've got to fine tune.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I thought Molly Wright was good. Lou said for her first start, I believe. And yeah, they got it all there, haven't they? You know, Helen Nelson. I thought Lisa Thompson was fabulous. Talent in Rona Lloyd, but getting that ball in Chloe Rowley and Rona Lloyd's hands enough. You know, they are devastating runners with the ball in hand. You've got to create chances to get them, but I agree. Them not getting on the front foot as much as they wanted to was a big thorn in the side for them. And Jay Conkle would have made that difference. So leaves it England top of the table, 4 from 4 like France, both on 20 points. England have a points difference of 2 plus points difference. This is of 248. Only 10 points scored against them. 24 points scored against France. 116 points difference for them. 42 tries for England. 20 for France. Oh my word! 42 tries in 4 games. You'd take that. Anyway, the other side of the news, we will have a look at all 3 of the round 5 games, including that mega crunch over in France.
Former All Blacks coach Wayne Smith, who joins the Black Ferns as technical coach earlier announced this month, is the new Black Ferns director of rugby. He will be assisted by Wesley Clark and Whitney Hanson, who has been an interim coach for the last 2 years. Sir Graham Henry will join the coaching team in a support role, while specialist coaches, including Mike Crone, will be used throughout the year. Amanda Murphy also joins as assistant strength and conditioning coach, leaving her position of women's high performance management at Canterbury.
I mean, it's probably a role that you should know because you have a couple of those yourself, don't you? Let's just have a very, very quick chat off the back of that news, Burf. We haven't got into the review. There's been a review in Canada, Ireland, New Zealand. We probably just don't have enough time to really get into it. It wasn't pleasant reading for anyone. Glenmore put a PR company to try and smooth things over. That kind of probably tells you the reaction off the back of that. The bottom line is players are standing up and saying, no, I've had enough of this. And that's exactly what they did and brought about this review. What do you make of some unbelievably high profile, very, very skilled coaches being parachuted into the Black Ferns setup?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people, this is a big discussion point about surely there was women that were more than capable of stepping into these positions. They're probably thinking, we don't have long left. Let's get people who have real experience in that area, manage to turn teams around, understand culturally what they need or what they don't need or how things might need to change, keeping some of the kind of foundations that they've had for a number of years, having Whitney Hanson in there. But yeah, I think a lot of people are looking in thinking, well, you could have thought about Anna Richards or, bringing somebody who's also been there, done that from a different perspective. So, for me, I'm a bit on the fence of it because I can understand they've literally got 6 months to turn their team around. So bringing in the likes of Mike Cron, who will be unbelievable with their set piece. They will be a transformational team in that position. Somebody, Wayne Smith, I mean, who doesn't talk about and rave about him as an individual? I mean, it's one of those things that this is a short-term fix that's needed to happen. Fair play to New Zealand rugby for, making the change. They could have very easily just smooth things over and go, right, we'll sort this out after the World Cup.
Yeah, it just smacks of absolute desperation for me. Realise just how far they're behind. And this is a culmination of investing absolutely zero in the women's game for years and relying on the team and the individuals and the women who've won them World Cups back to back to back. And that's been enough. And it's, oh, well, we don't need to invest because they're winning anyway. And actually, boom, you lose by a cricket score at the autumn, and it's a home World Cup. You're like, it's desperation. And if Wayne Smith was coming in for 2-3 years or 2 years, I don't mind that. But as you say, it's not just a case of parachuting these unbelievable people in. I'm sure they do a fantastic job. But it's something Gareth Street, and a very, very good close friend of yours, always said there is a huge, huge, huge difference between coaching men and women. I've done it, and I understand that. It's massively different, and some chaps just can't do it. And there's no need to go into examples of people who possibly in that camp, but it's very, very different. But yeah, it means that the Black Ferns are running. I say running scared, but are really, really fearful of England. And it should be a very, very big compliment to the Red Roses and Simon Middleton and his team. Over the Tasman the weekend, I don't know if you saw any of this, but the Super W was decided on Saturday. It was free to air on TV for the first time. Fair play to Stan Sport, gave it the bells and whistles. Timmy Horan was there as well. Fijiana Ndrua took on the New South Wales Waratahs. It was a scintillating final, it really was, and they won 32 points to 26. Wow, some unbelievable tries scored in that. If you haven't looked at it, look it up on social. Ndrua halted the Waratahs, winning a 5th straight title. Vitalina Naikora crossed for 3 tries and was player of the match.
The first round of the Women's Premier Division in South Africa kicked off at the weekend. The Sharks started their campaign with a loss at home to Western Province. EP Queens beat the Golden Lions 18-10, while the Blue Bulls won 12-0 versus the Border Ladies. Poland with the bye in this 7-team competition.
And the 2022 Pacific 4 Series fixtures have been announced in the last few days. New Zealand and Australia joining Canada and USA from last year. All 4 will play each other once, and it all kicks off on the 6th of June. Venue still to be decided for that round, and then rounds 2 and 3 on the 12th and 19th of June will be in New Zealand.
Over to sevens, of course, the Langford leg of the Women's HSBC World 7 Series is this weekend, with the World Cup in Cape Town looming in September. Last weekend, Canada qualified in the Bahamas. Sounds pretty tough being there. Beating Mexico, Jamaica, Cayman Islands and Trinidad and Tobago to take the North American spot.
This weekend in Tunisia, 8 teams will compete for the Africa spot. South Africa being the 9th team, but they've already qualified, of course, as hosts. In Pool A, well, that consists of Senegal, Zimbabwe and South Africa. Kenya, Uganda and Zambia, beautiful place, will battle it out in Pool B, while host Tunisia are drawn with Madagascar. I just think of that little monkey type thing from the films. And Ghana. Stop it, Maurice. Don't do it, Maurice.
And in Australia Sevens, Emily Barton, previously known as Emily Cherry, announced as the new Sevens assistant coach. She's an Olympic gold medalist, won the series in 2015-16 and was the first Australian woman to win the Sevens Player of the Year. Australia Sevens on the brink of the first series title since 2018 if they finish first or second in Langford this week.
Over to news from the UK. The Premier 15s Cup was played out at Sandy Park, the home of the Exeter Chiefs, at the weekend. The Chiefs had a very strong side out. Were too strong for Burf's Harlequins side, winning 57-12. Bristol Bears beat Worcester to 3rd place.
Over in France, it was also their final cup weekend, with Toulouse taking on Bobogny and beating them 13-5.
Those French lessons really have paid off, haven't they, Burf?
You're my tutor.
It's the accent and everything. It's just brilliant. And in the Championship here in England, the playoff final is this Sunday between Cheltenham Tigers ladies and Thurrock ladies at Newlands Park, Aylesbury RFC. Good luck to both. Let rugby be the winner.
So on that one, that's Charlie Beckett, Sarah Beckett's the coach, and then Thurrock ladies, Emily Scott's the coach.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh. Personal stuff. Yeah, good luck to both sets of players. So then, Burf, Round 5, the culmination of the Six Nations Super Saturday. Let's run you through the fixtures again. Wales against Italy at 12 o'clock on S4C here in the UK, also on the BBC iPlayer. France against England, 2:15 on BBC Two here in the UK. And then finishing up at 8 o'clock in the evening, Ireland against Scotland. That's on BBC Scotland, I believe, and the iPlayer, that kind of thing. From the Kingspan Stadium in, we would know, Ravenhill in Belfast. Let's go through them chronologically then, Rachael Burford. Wales against Italy. Where's it going to be won and lost? I want predictions. I want people who are going to stand out. I want the exact amount of people in the crowd. Everything. I want a full preview, please.
Okay. I don't think we've got enough time, but this is a really interesting one because it's one of those ones where Italy have been really poor and not really consistent throughout the Six Nations, obviously getting their first win last weekend. So they're going to be able to, use that momentum going into this game. Whereas on the flip side of that, Wales, obviously, not a hugely heavy defeat against France. However, they didn't play particularly well, like we've spoken about, no real shots fired. So, it's one of those games where it's the last round. You want to put your best foot forward. Italy obviously want to make sure that they, lay a marker leading into the Rugby World Cup, as do Wales. But I just find it quite hard to call on this one. I do. I think a lot of players for Wales will want to stand up and, make it known that they should be a starting player or they should be in key positions, and ensuring that they get off to the right foot. They've got to start well. Both teams need to start well. I think for me, Italy's set piece has been, worrying throughout the Six Nations, and I think they'll have a really, really tough day because you saw what Wales could do to England's set piece. And also to France's set piece, who you would argue is probably the strongest two teams in terms of set piece. If Italy have no set piece and nothing to play off, then Wales will cause them problems. And, there's something about this Welsh team that I think if you give them an opportunity and you give them a chance, then they push away with it. And for me, I think that's what will just take them over the edge this weekend against Italy.
Do you?
Yes, I do. I just think of all the players.
So set piece key, you say?
Set piece is really key. I think how they start and the momentum. If Wales can get hold of the momentum, I think they'll keep hold of it. I just think the level that all of those players play at now, they're used to tough competition week in, week out, as they are in the Allianz Premier 15s, where Italy don't have that same amount of, week on, week out, competitive, high level, high performing contest. And I think that could be the telling tale at the end of the game, for this final round.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I think with the start that Italy had, they had that loss to France away, really tough start of the competition, and then at home to England. I think the competition started against Ireland. Ireland were hurt and wounded, but I think we said earlier in the review piece that I didn't see Italy losing against Scotland. I just felt they had another gear, and Yeti coming back, big ball carrier 8. I think they clearly need to sort their set piece out. But I like the look of the back line. I really do. Baratine at scrum half, Muzo on the wing. Maddie has played really well. If you're looking for a consistent fly half, this Six Nations, which we will do next week, won't we, with our team of the tournament. Rigoni strutting about as well. Sillery on fire. I don't know. I just think they're going up, and I wonder whether Wales are spent. They've used so much emotional energy in the opening few rounds and performed quite brilliantly. And I think whether Wales win or lose, it's incredibly, from where they've come from last year, it's an incredibly successful campaign. Italy need probably that win a little bit more. So going to be tight for you?
Yeah, I think it will be tight, but I just think Wales will manage the game better. I just think that they've got players within their side who are just that, like I said, play a little bit more at the higher levels in high pressure games. You just think of the Bristol Bears players, how they'll be able to manage through tight situations. And yeah, I do think it'll be tight. And I agree with you in terms of the players that you called out there, how they played and what they can add. And maybe we see Jada this weekend, which again will add a difference, Jada Franco.
Yeah.
But I just think Wales will have enough. I think Wales have had better form throughout, and Italy have been inconsistent.
You and I pointed it out about Wales's kicking game and their inability to be. So you say manage the game, but they're not going to change personnel. Perhaps they do. Perhaps Claire George comes in. I doubt it. Very strongly. So you've still got Eleanor Sosil, Robin Wilkins at 10, 12, or 1 at 10. So you've still got that issue with Wales of being able to clear their lines. And when you've got Sillery and Muzo, Manuela Forlan, she went off, didn't she? But she looked very rapid down the left-hand side at one point against Scotland. I do
hear you on that, and that's been a massive call out that we've been saying about them, but I do think they have the rugby brains to try and manage the game, maybe not the execution.
Come on then.
I'm going to say Wales by 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Italy by 3.
Oosh. Okay.
Can I change that?
No.
My grandmother is turning in her grave.
Too late.
Menna Margaret Davies. Bless her. Come on then, the big one. The crunch, the Grand Slam decider. You said earlier on, not sure France are just in that space to be able to challenge England at the moment. However, sort of England are playing, they've just got extra levels. Back at home, in front of their home crowd, sharing that stand at the Stade Jean Dolga is not up. I think it's going to be a max of about 12,000, but still, we'll take 12,000, won't we? You still stick by that, England winning?
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, if France are going to be anywhere at the World Cup, they need to beat England this weekend. They have to beat them now. But I just don't know if they're there. And I think the way that, yes, England they haven't been as consistent and they've had a lot of errors and certain things haven't gone right, but their personnel is just ridiculous. I mean, any of their bench could start like every weekend that we've had, that kind of strength and depth to close a game out. Where I think they might get found out is, historically, France's defence has always been immense and England have struggled attacking wise to really break down defences. Wales really made them work hard for their tries. So did Scotland. They had to build a lot of phases in order to be able to score or to be able to create some space. And it's only been in the later stages of games that teams have really opened up. Now, France won't be unfit. They won't drop off in the final 20 minutes. So England are going to have to start really strong and not a slow start like they have done and the ill discipline they had last weekend. They can't afford to do that against France. But having said all that, I still think England will be too strong. I think the array of players that England have, 1 to 22, 1 to 30 of their entire squad, whereas when we talk about France, we're talking about a big handful, but a handful of players that you would say, they're game winners, they can turn things around, but in England's team, you're looking at everybody to be able to do that.
So if you matched up the two starting 15s to 23s, how many of those French players would get into the England side, player for player on pure rugby merit? It's not a huge amount.
Yeah.
at the moment, and I'm totally with you. I think for England, it's win or lose. I think it's win-win, because if you win, it's 10 in a row now, isn't it, against France? That's massive. It's a huge hurdle for France, and I'm totally with you. I think France have to win. And in the same World Cup pool, you lose 10 in a row, you lost almost before you get on the park in a World Cup pool. And if England lose, it's a kick up the rear that, isn't a bad thing a few months away from a World Cup. Yeah. So, I don't think England will take it lightly. I know Simon Middleton is really, really keen, loves his Six Nations, loves getting trophies. Real shame that Cinta's not going to be playing, but she'll be out there whipping the guys up. And I think they want another Grand Slam, a back-to-back Grand Slam. So England by how many then?
I don't know. I've got this feeling that England are just going to absolutely blow them away, but I'm not that confident with that.
I've put England by 22.
Yeah, see, there's something I feel, especially with how they played against Ireland, the amount of opportunities they butchered, the amount of times they got into the 22. You just don't see England do that repeatedly. You don't see that 2 weeks on a row. And also that team, that's why I think he'll stay with that team, to have consistency. They've got that out of their system. They came good in the second half. And then, I don't know. But then I want it to be close. I want France.
We all want it to be a great competition, don't we? You are pontificating.
Okay,
Burford.
This is what I want to happen, is I want England to win by...
Last play.
Yeah, last play. Oh, I don't know, because that's so cruel on the opposition. I've been there. It's not nice to lose in the 80th minute when the clock's in the red and Portia Woodman runs down the pitch and scores and takes away the series from you. Anyway, so
let it go.
I want to say, I'm going to say
England. And on the pod next week, Portia Woodman, ladies and gentlemen. So
I'll go with England by 6. That's what I want. I want a tight game.
Rachael Burford saying England by 6. I think, heard from Scaz there, didn't we, what was said at half time, and it was very cool and measured. But it was like, no, do this, this, and this. And they're that good, and they're that professional, that they went out second half and did it 59 points. Not as joined up as they would like, I don't think, as we would like. But some of the tries, I know a player down Senanoop who was off at that point, but was it Ellie killed? No, it was Lydia Thompson's try, wasn't it? Of Helena Rowland's pass floated over the top was a thing of beauty. I think England will lay down another significant mark to say no, this is our World Cup, and if you want to take it off us, that's fine. But we've got 2 hands on it very, very firmly. And yeah, the Six Nations title is ours. So I'm going 22. I won't even go more.
Ooh, well.
Rachael Burford said England by 6. I've said England by 10. So
you've backed off on 22.
Sorry.
You're having a bit of self-doubt today, Johnny.
22 or 10. Ireland, Scotland at the King's Pan in Belfast. Saturday evening, 8 o'clock. Again, really tough to call, isn't it?
I don't know.
Scotland on fumes? Are Ireland buoyant after the first 40? Are they absolutely shattered? Alfie McDermott, 24 hours after the game.
Not even 24 hours.
Yeah, not even that. It's doing battle with Abbey Ward and World Player of the Year Zoe Allcroft, and she's back to work and quite rightly highlighted all across social media. Do they have anything left?
I would say yes. Like, for me, I think Ireland are going to win. I just think they will be, you just think of the effort that they put in last weekend. If they can produce that, then I think they'll blow Scotland away. Not blow them away and it'll be a massive score, but I just think Oh, it depends on their injuries, actually. They did pick up a few injuries.
Just about to ask you about that in terms of putting a back line together.
Yeah.
You know, Sene Naoupu is clear to play in the judiciary meeting, disciplinary, I should say, sorry. She was cleared. It was called a yellow card rather than a red. But Nicole Cronin went off, of course. Didn't look like she was in a good place.
Yeah, I think they've obviously lost Considine as well, who's most experienced
Of course, yeah.
in that back three at the moment as well. So that is quite pivotal when you say that. Having said that, though, the debuts, they look like they've got something about them. Oh, no, you got me questioning. I still think just how Ireland played last weekend, and is it Niamh Jones, the hooker? Gosh, she's feisty.
Yeah.
Oh, I like her. She's got a lot about her.
Diminutive little thing, isn't she, as well?
Gosh.
And, people talk about Cleena Maloney and not being picked or whatever. And, Greg Williams said last week, didn't he? Have I got the selection right for this squad? And did I imagine having Niamh Jones and Cleena Maloney in your two hookers in your 23? Thank you very much.
Well, you might want to get Clean to play in the backs. She's been doing it at Wasps.
Yeah.
I just still think that they're going to be stronger. I don't know what it is. I just feel like they had such a physical presence and edge last weekend, and the effort that they put in. And it was almost like it didn't matter that England were going to beat them or how many by. They were never just going to roll over. And I hope that they've got some in the tank. I think they actually assembled earlier this week. So that's an extra day potentially for recovery and things like that, knowing with what's coming around the corner. But I just don't feel like I've seen Scotland get out of third or fourth gear. That Wales game was probably the only game.
So Scotland are 0 from 4. They've only got amassed 2 points. And those are 2 losing bonus points. 45 points for, 129 points against. But they don't look like that side that sits at bottom of the Six Nations table. They really don't look like that side. There's so much talent there. They played some cracking rugby, but are the same issues that we've spoken about all campaign gonna be exactly the same? That breaking into 22s, spending a lot of time in 22s, but actually not being able to convert those chances. Don't know, but Ireland.
Yep, I'm with you. I think Ireland by...
Rachel Malcolm will never come on the pod again. Jade Conqueror won't speak to you ever again.
Yeah, well, Jade's not playing. That's my reason.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
But when you think about it, can I see Ireland scoring kind of really wide, exciting, expansive tries? I'm not sure I can. So I don't think it's going to be like a massive high scoring. I think Scotland's got more ability of doing that. I'm going to back Ireland. I'm going to back them on the effort that they put in last weekend. I reckon they can produce that again, finish their Six Nations on a high, then get their union to get behind them and start building what they can really do with that amount of talent for the future.
Ireland by.
Who's going to kick goal? I'm going to say Ireland by 5.
Ireland by 2.
Oof.
Or
Sorry,
Scotland. Or Scotland.
Or Scotland.
There is the most jumbled preview of Super Saturday you'll hear this week.
Is that clear for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely clear. But there you go. Anyway, let's just run through those fixtures with you with our predictions thrown in there for you as well. It all kicks off Super Saturday, Wales against Italy, 12 o'clock, S4C here in the UK. Rachael Burford said Wales by 8. I've said Italy by 3. France against England, 2:15 from Bayonne. Rachael Burford said England by 6. I have said England by 22 or 10. Finishing up Ireland against Scotland at 8 o'clock from the Kingspan in Belfast. Rachael Burford has said Ireland by 5. I have said Ireland by 2. Well, before we go, Burf, couple of little shout outs. I actually want an apology, but I love having the guests on, obviously, and it's always a treat to speak to Dame Scarratt. But yeah, getting into the rugby stuff with you, absolutely magical. Anyway, we will let you go, get your fishing kit and stuff sorted out for next week. But there's an apology to our lovely farmer, who, of course, if you listened last week, you will know, named a couple of lambs after Burf and I. Louise Chiswell. We say she was from Wales, and just what a poor assumption. She's from Leicestershire. So huge apologies to Louise. She's going to keep us up to date with how the lambs are doing. But they're spending most of their days, as Louise said, perhaps I said it, lazing around and sunbathing. And I said that was very like Burf.
I wouldn't mind doing that, to be fair. And a bit of humble brag part time right now, Johnny, because we're in the top 50 women's podcasts. So not just sport, but women's podcasts in the world on FeedSpot. So just a big thank you, for you for producing all of this and editing and everything, but also to all of our listeners, because that is really special.
The only other shout out is to, we think we do a little bit for the women's game, but not even touching the sides here with this lady, Ali Donnelly, the lady behind Scrum Queens, and as long as I've been doing this, she's been there and many years before, writing about rugby, being involved in it, and constantly. I mean, Scrum Queens, the time and commitment that she and John Birch, must mention John as well. But Ali is now an author. She has put all those years of experience and stories and tales into Scrum Queens, the story of women's rugby. Celebrating the first shoots and the initial growth of the women's game. So I can't wait to read that. It's on pre-sale now, so do look it up. A huge thank you from everybody in the game, Ali, for everything you have done and continue to do. And this is a celebration of that, and we should all be reading it. And can I get a signed copy, please? Thank you very much.
And me.
Oh yeah, let's do then for the WRPites. But no, brilliant, Ali. And Ali will be joining us next week. Not for a book promo, although we shall allow her to do that. But she's going to join Sarah Orchard, a BBC commentator who's been doing most of the England games for the Six Nations, to do our traditional annual Scrum Queens / Women's Rugby Pod Six Nations team of the tournament. I've already started mine, just a few ideas, putting them down. You're just doing it now. I get you. But we always look forward to that every year. And we will also, of course, go through the entire tournament, what two experts of the women's game, Sarah and Ali, have made of the tournament as a whole. But as Burf said, thank you very much for listening, our listeners, our loyal listeners. Much appreciated. Thank you very much to Tom. Thank you very much to Emily Scarratt. Enjoy your fishing trip.